a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And that is true at all levels of government, whether it's national, state, or local. Our San Juan School District is a local government body, so it can be said that we are a school district of the people, by the people, and for the people. So our district's strategic framework reflects that theme with focus area 1 of connected school communities. And the connected school communities of caring staff actively build community relationships, identify assets, needs, and connect students and families with resources to help them access the best opportunities our schools have to offer. And I believe those themes are common, and they have a common concept of working together. So it's important for to remember the purpose of our committee. Its purpose is to advise the governing board of trustees, and the governing board makes policy. So I wanted to, that concludes my opening remarks. So welcome everybody, and I guess we can go to agenda item, let's see, agenda item number 2, I believe. And
actually, so, Tom, could I take just a minute to go over a couple housekeeping items?
Oh, yes, sorry.
Thank you. No worries. Nope, not a big deal. We'll pop back to the agenda in a minute. So welcome everybody. There's 2 options tonight to participate in the Zoom meeting. We're actually using a meeting format tonight. We're using the chat icon, but we're trying it out, and we're going to be reserving it for the community building activity tonight. So we will use chat box for the community building activity. When we get to the question and answer sections of the meeting tonight for both PAC members and public comments, use the raise your hand icon at the bottom of your screen. First, you'll look to the reactions button where it has a little smiley face. And if you click on that, there's some options for you that you can select. And so if you raise your hand to speak, you would click on that icon. So, and when you are, okay, so we've got a couple more PAC members joining tonight, so I apologize. I just wanted to capture that for attendance purposes. So we'll go ahead and go forward. When we get to the community public comment section and the PAC member comment question section, feel free, once you're called on, to come off mute, start your video if you so choose, and then when you finish speaking, if you can go ahead and take yourself, if you can unmute, that would be great. So I will turn it back over to Tom for the agenda.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, I'm calling the meeting to order, and actually already gave my welcoming statement or comment. So I think I want to welcome everybody and for taking time to join us this evening. And with that, I'll go ahead and Dr. McKibben, do you have some comments you'd care to give?
Welcome everybody. Glad that you are all here. Tom, did I hear that we had a quorum, or we don't have a quorum yet?
I think Laura's checking. We
have 9 right now. We need one more for a quorum.
More, okay. All right. One of the things that this is we're all working. Actually, tomorrow we'll be talking about and distributing the results of our parent survey and related to reopening our schools and so forth. We're excited about that, although we're not terribly excited that our county has gone back to purple, and that's likely to affect a lot of the things that we were hoping to do and propose. But we are continuing on with the plan. We have already started our moderate severe back into school, and we plan on having continuing on with distance learning until January 5th, where we will give most of the students an opportunity to do that. In our surveys, you might be interested, approximately a quarter of our elementary and secondary people have chosen to stay in distance learning when we move to the alternative in hybrid learning that will begin on January 5th. Lisa, is there any that we had talked about me talking about some other issues? Are those going to be talked about later, or should I do those now? Can't hear you, Lisa, you're on mute.
I'm on mute, my apologies.
Okay.
If you wouldn't mind, Dr. McKibben, please go ahead and feel free to share.
Okay, one of the things I was requested to talk about was that as many of you know, that we had some concerns expressed about one of the members of the LCAP, and so we went to our basic standard operating procedure of having a person from our legal affairs person to do the investigation. This is a standard procedure, whether it be a superintendent, whether it be a board member, whether it be a staff member, is that we do hold these kinds of investigations. And in this case, because the concerns were expressed both by teachers and by students, we did indeed consider it serious, as all concerns expressed in that way were. We went through, had 8 different interviews related to this, and then it was presented to myself and the alternate on the LCAP committee. Our determination was that though there were some things that were concerning, there was not anything that violated any particular policy. But one of the things that we discovered was that as we looked is that there were 2 concerns that were even bigger than this issue. One was that we don't have a board policy related to social media that is adequate for the times now. And we also don't have a policy that specifically relates to members of committees. Therefore, you will be seeing coming to the full board policies on both of those to cover those errors. But I will tell you that it has been investigated, and the conclusions are there, and we find that the person on the LCAP committee was welcome back to the committee, and we will correct our issues related to our policies in an upcoming board meeting. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Okay, well, so I guess let's see, are there any, I guess if any PAC members have any questions, they can raise their hand. Is that, and then.
I have my hand up, but I don't know. I think I did it wrong.
Okay, well, it looks like, let's see, I see Stephanie Colbert, PAC member Stephanie has raised her hand. Should we go ahead and Stephanie?
Okay. Should we just wait until we talk about the survey? Because there was a concern about the survey, how it was presented to parents. I had like 15 parents like confused that night, the night it was due, and some answered like the things that they didn't want, and I even printed out like the answers, and so it made it like for every last option. So we didn't know how it was related what we chose. So
okay.
After Dr. McKibben just said that he had a survey, I didn't know if this was the time or just wait until we talk about survey.
Oh, we'll talk about that. I was talking specifically about any questions related to what we're doing, related to our social media policy, and related to making sure that there is a code of conduct related to any of the board appointed committees.
Dr. Martin, if I could jump in, Hi, everybody. I'm Melissa Bassinelli, the Deputy Superintendent for Schools and Student Support. And Superintendent Kern sends his regrets. He's out of state currently, so he's unable to attend. I wanted to respond to Stephanie's inquiry about the survey, is that we intend to follow up with families to ensure that their selection meets their intention. And so there will be messaging around that coming out shortly within the next week. And so I want to assure you that families will have an opportunity to affirm their selection or select something different if they were confused and wanted to choose a different model.
Okay, thank you for that one. And
Thank you.
for the social media, I didn't read the policy. Is it going to include? There's a lot of things on live social media, so I don't know. That's one of the things. Instead of how things are posted, a lot of people do things live. So I am probably looking to that and when including it in policies.
Yeah, so I think that is
We have not put the social media policy together, so I don't know exactly what it's going to complain, but most of it will be related to the use of social media, the proper use of social media, and the procedures related to contacting students, what can be, and so forth, related to adults and their contact with students in our group related to social media. Those kinds of things will be in the policy.
Thank you.
And it looks like Damaris.
Damaris?
Evening. Melissa, thanks for the clarification on the superintendent's not being able to attend. I did know that Dr. McKibben was going to speak on the issue regarding Tom. I did appreciate getting an email prior to this meeting, so I at least knew what was going on from Kristen. I really appreciated that. I would have appreciated having the same done previously before we got swiped with it at the beginning of our last meeting. Dr. McKibben, I appreciate your explanation of what happened. In your explanation, even I still heard prior to your saying that the district had found some concerns, that there were some concerns, and I'd like you to really clarify that. And I really think that Tom deserves a public apology. This was something that we would not have done to a teacher, to another staff member, but we do it to parents continuously. Throughout the 24 years I've been in this district, I can bring you parents that have all had this whisper campaign started about them over whatever. And it's kind of like, taxation without representation. The difference with teachers is they have the union. Different with administrators, they have, the board has, everybody has somebody except us. And when something happens, we have to go into our own pockets to deal with this, because it becomes a legal situation when we have to be in front of the district's legal people. And I just think that it's unfair because we wouldn't do it. We don't do it. Let me say, in our history, we have not done this to teachers or other staff. And I do think that Mr. Nelson deserves, after he has done so much in this community for our students, for our staff, for our communities, for him not to get a public apology after the way this thing was handled, I really think is unfair. We're human beings. We do a lot, and you don't treat the teachers or other staff this way. But when it comes to parents, it's like, whatever, we'll run their lives in the ground. We have these whisper campaigns, but they never even get a chance. At least Tom got a chance to defend himself. 90% of us, we're just dismissed, or we only hear it when one of your group breaks the whisper campaign. And we never get a chance to defend ourselves. So I think he deserves a public apology. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you. And I guess this is agenda item 2, so the board liaison comments. I'm not seeing any other raised hands from PAC members. I think we can then go on to agenda item 3, staff report.
Good evening, everyone. This is Lisa Borrego, Director of Family Engagement and Partnership Development. I'd like to acknowledge Melissa Bassinelli. Thank you so much for being here. And we're sorry that Superintendent Kern isn't able to be present, but so happy that you're joining us today. I really have only one comment to share at this time. There will be other items through the agenda that I'll be reporting on, but I'd like to share with the LCAP PAC this evening that this will be my last meeting with the LCAP PAC and actually with San Juan Unified School District. I have been given the good fortune of being given a position to be the first Director of Family Engagement for the California Department of Education. So I will be leaving San Juan Unified effective November 20th. I'm very excited to continue the work that I do with family engagement throughout the state and to shine a light on the work and the importance of family engagement and working in collaboration with families throughout the state and raising that voice so that we can continue to ensure that our parents are being heard and our students are receiving the supports and resources that they need to be successful. Just another item, the position has been posted for the LCAP director. So it is currently flying and we will be seeking a replacement as quickly as the job position closes and interviews can be made. So with that, I just wanted to share that with the LCAP PAC. I appreciate the opportunity to be of service of this group and to have participated in this work. And I wish you the best as you continue to do this work within the district. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Damaris, did you have a comment?
I just had a quick, yes, Lisa, congratulations on the new job. Enjoy. I just wonder if that's why I was supposed to get feedback. I think in the last meeting 2 months ago, there was going to be, you were going to reach out so that we could communicate about some grassroots stuff. And I haven't heard anything from anybody. And that too concerns me. I'm like, if going forward, we have to follow through. Again, just because we're not staff doesn't mean that we don't have something to contribute and that we shouldn't be handled the same way. So I would have appreciated in the last 2 months some feedback since we said we were going to do that. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, so at this point in time, we are going to go to the visitor comment section. And so if you're a visitor tonight and you would like to speak, please raise your hand. We ask that you limit your comments to 2 minutes. So if you'd like to speak on a topic, we are not able to respond to the topic, but if you'd like to speak on a topic, you're welcome to speak. So it looks like we've got Amy. So Amy, go ahead, come off mute.
Hi, I'm Amy Kasuni. I'm the former LCAP chair and member of the committee from 2013 to 2018. And tonight, after hearing of how your chair, Tom Nelson, was recently treated by district leadership, I'm here to present what appears to be a pattern of district conduct. And based on the pattern, it will become clear that this committee, charged with accountability, needs protection. First, when any student raises a concern, concerns should be taken seriously. I was happy to see the district and board did so. However, district leadership went a step too far when it disseminated a defamatory email to members of this committee, implying Tom Nelson had engaged in inappropriate conduct prior to the resolution of any investigation. To give background, I quote Mr. Nelson's attorney. The district's conduct in removing Nelson from his chair position is legally questionable. In reviewing this matter, I found potential liability pertaining to infringement of constitutionally protected freedom of speech, possible violation of whistleblower statutes, and defamation. He characterized Tom's investigation as suspicious, having arisen from one site administrator that apparently holds a grudge against Tom Nelson. So what does it matter now that your chair has been exonerated and restored to his LCAP membership and official position? In the past, the district has besmirched and called into question the character of other LCAP members. I think Damaris spoke to that tonight. Historically, there have been 4 chairs that have served this committee. 2 were removed without cause, and Tom Nelson was temporarily removed. Interference with this committee's chairs is grounds for consideration for this committee. Finally, every LCAP director who has served as liaison to this committee has exited the position abruptly. What's going on here? To protect the important work of this committee, please consider allocating for an outside district ombudsman and requesting the board respond to the motions this committee passes. Thank you very much for the continued work that you do to represent students and parents who need it most in this district.
Thank you, Ms. Chaffin. Do we have any more raised hands? Any more visitors would like to make a comment or ask a question? So raise your hand. Okay, Sabrina Bernardo, you have the floor.
Hello. This is my first time ever attending one of your guys' meetings, and I will be quite honest, I am not 100% sure what you all do. So any background that you guys can give, I think that'd be great. I think you guys have, if this is a parent advisory committee, I think you have a lot of parents that want to get involved right now, especially with everything that's happening. And I'm not sure how much sway and where you guys stand with going back to school or not. But I would like to publicly comment. I don't know if this is the right spot or not, but El Dorado Hills is going back to school 4 days a week, full in person. Orangeville, Carmichael, Citrus Heights have very low numbers compared to Sacramento County or Sacramento in general. And my biggest concern is we have the option that whatever's happening in January, we knew it was it's not going to happen with we going back. If we do go back, there are no other options. Homeschool is full. So if you guys don't know, you can't even get into the homeschool program through San Juan Unified School District. So that option is not there anymore. Aspire, South Sutter, Visions, they're all full. So parents are literally stuck with this crappy distance learning option. And that's the only thing we can do. We can homeschool on our own, but there is no funding for us and no help. So I'm not sure how much pull you guys have and where you guys stand, but I would like to say I appreciate all of your guys' time for coming together and doing what you do. And I'm going to be interested to staying connected with you guys in the future. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bernardo. Marina Gable, would you like to come off mute and speak? You have 2 minutes.
Can you hear me?
We can.
I want to agree with the parent that spoke prior to me, Sabrina. Thank you for speaking out. And yes, we are trapped, unfortunately. I would love to remove my son from the San Juan school district. But as she said, there are no options for us. It's very unfortunate. Most districts filled the waiver. The process happened. Schools have started. Children are going to school. I know for a fact, I'm a school bus driver. I'm taking kids to school. And it's interesting with COVID being the reason that kids aren't going to school, when special needs children are the ones that are actually going to school first, who actually have underlying issues with their health. So it's literally so concerning how backwards this is. And the fact that the San Juan School District hasn't even made an attempt to get our kids back to school where they belong. Zoom education is not education. These children are being tortured. It is horrible. This is horrible. Please, parents are begging you to help put our children back in school.
Thank you, Ms. Gable. Do we have any more visitor comments this evening? So please raise your hand. Okay, at this time, we have a statement that was sent in, and I will go ahead and share it because it doesn't look like he is here. This is from Juan, and I apologize if I mispronouncing his name. It's Juan Juaniguez. He says, I am a founding member and former chair of the LCAP PAC and a past member and chair of the former Facilities, Transportation and Finance Committee. I am pleased that your chair has been exonerated of sham charges conducted by an investigation that violated his civil rights. In light of this case, I am obligated to provide you with historical information that exposes how the board and staff treat those who question or disagree with their policy and personnel decisions. 3 of the 4 original chairs of this committee have been unethically removed or suspended. One of the assistant chairs has quit in protest. Other members and chairs of other district-wide committees have been removed in a similar manner. How does the board get away with these unethical practices? It arbitrarily changes committee bylaws and grandfathers in some, but not all sitting members. The concept of grandfathering is a universal best practice when bylaws are changed. Our board purposely neglects to employ this best practice. Early on, it became clear that the board was ignoring PAC recommendations. We then resorted to conducting formal votes. Still, we were denied the courtesy of responses to our recommendations. In 2017, the PAC voted with no dissenting votes to reject the district's draft of the yearly LCAP plan. Of 14 votes cast, none were in support of the plan. Although legally required, we were denied any say or review of the district's annual budget. We were routinely denied access to information that shed light on whether or not PAC-related expenditures were actually spent on what we recommended. After racially charged incidents in the district and a lack of response to parent claims of sexual abuse of students, we recommended the hiring of an independent ombudsman. The district studied this issue for more than 2 years and created its own self-serving internal system. Interestingly, it did not activate the system in your chair's case. I urge you to make decisive recommendations as you deliberate this year. The board has taken away all fiscal oversight by district-wide committees. Recommend that this critical analytical tool be reinstated to the PAC. Recommend that an independent ombudsperson be hired by the district. Recommend that the board require itself to respond in writing and at board meetings to every recommendation you make. I wish you the best of luck. Okay. So do we have any more questions or comments from the public before we move on? All right. At this point in time, we're going to take PAC attendance. We decided to do this a little bit farther down so that we allowed enough time for all the PAC members to come on board. So I'm basically, I think what I'll do is I'll call out the members that I have captured that are here. If you can come off mute after I call your name and say that you're here or yay, that would be great. And then if I did not call on you, please let me know if I've missed you. So Amber Busby?
Yes, I'm here.
Great, thank you, Amber. Kenan?
Yes, hi, I'm here.
Thank you, Kenan. Damaris?
Yes, good evening, Laura. I'm here.
Thank you. Caroline?
Good evening. I'm here too.
Hi, Caroline. Elnora?
I'm here.
Thank you. Stephanie?
Here.
Hey, Eric?
Here.
Thank you. Zena?
Hello, Laura.
Hi, Zena. Nice to have you. I'm glad you're able to get in.
Yeah,
Tom?
thank you.
Tom?
Here.
Phyllis?
I'm here.
Thank you,
Good
Phyllis.
evening.
Good evening. Jacqueline?
I'm here.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Okay, that's great. Did I miss anybody, PAC members? Any PAC members at all? Great. All right. We are now going to look at approving the meetings from September 10th PAC meeting. I hope you all had a chance to look those over. We do have a quorum tonight. We have 11 PAC members in attendance. So is there anybody that would like to make a motion to approve the minutes from September 10th? Please come off mute and identify yourself.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Tom.
I second that, Stephanie.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Okay. Well,
Great.
we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Is there any discussion that PAC members want to have? Any errors, any corrections to the minutes? If so, please come off mute. And otherwise, not seeing any raised hands or hearing any comments or discussion on the minutes, I guess we can go ahead and vote. Laura, how would you like to do the vote?
How about if you just raise your hand, PAC members, and I'll do a quick count. So all those in favor of approving, raise your hand.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry, we've got a welcome, Kim. Actually, now we have 12 attendees, so that's great.
Oh,
All right, so
Laura,
Kim-
quick
Yeah.
question. For the comments that were made in the minutes for September, was anybody else going to follow up on like any of the LCAP statements that were mentioned that are in the transcription that we read?
You
Like
know,
people that
I
had
know that
concerns?
yes, thank you, Stephanie. I know on the agenda tonight, we have, we will be following up on the learning plan with the community-based contracts. So, but if there's something in there we haven't followed up on yet, feel free to let us know when we get to another section of visitor comments and
Okay.
PAC member comments. Okay, thank you, Stephanie. All right, I apologize. If you can keep your hands raised, let me just scroll. So Jacqueline, do you approve the minutes?
Yes, I tried to raise my hand, but it went down.
Oh, okay, it timed out. Thank you. Okay. And Phyllis, did you raise your hand, but it timed out?
I did not. I did not attend that meeting, so I didn't
Okay.
feel I could vote on that.
Okay. All right. So, and Zena,
So I wasn't there at that time. I'm sorry.
that's okay. Okay, so we have, let's see, 11. So we have 9 approvals and 2 abstains.
Okay, so minutes are approved.
Great. Okay, and with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Nelson.
Okay, all right. Let's see, Heather is not here.
You want the remote control?
No, I'll let you go ahead and bring up the
Okay.
screen. This is, Heather usually does the community building activity, but this is, the purpose of the community building activity is really just to get us, the PAC members to get to know each other a little bit. So let's see, do you have those questions that Heather had? Let's see.
Yes, I will do that right now. Let me, here we go.
Okay, so.
See that?
Meeting. Sorry, bud.
So we'll just do this sort of quickly. If
Want your dessert? You have some candy already? You did, right? Yeah, you did. Just say yeah.
Okay. So if PAC members can just pick a single question
Sorry,
of
this is not your school
examples.
again. I'm getting back into school.
Oh, let's see. Okay. And just pick a question off there and then share with the PAC. And I guess, let's see. So to do that, I will go ahead and go first. And so I'll just go ahead and pick the first one of what my first job was. And I would consider my first job was actually working as a security guard, walking around a lumber mill in Fort Bragg, not so much for security, but just to make sure that there weren't any fires at the lumber mill because it reduced the insurance for the lumber mill. So that gives you a little bit of information and background about me. So if there is another PAC member that wants to go ahead and pick one of the questions and just share with the group as a way for us to get to know a little bit more about you. Thank you.
Yeah, I could go ahead. So as you guys know, my name is Kennedy, and I think I'll pick question number 2. So do you have any pets? I do. I have one boxer. She's a girl, so I have a female boxer, and then I just recently got into fish. So we have a fish tank and a couple freshwater fish at our house.
Oh, thank you.
So, can I go next?
Yes, please do. Just jump right in.
So I'll do number 4. What's your favorite smell? I adore lavender. The smell of lavender, I like it most. So yeah, I like the question.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Okay. I will take number 7. My father gave me my name. I was named after a woman in the village where he grew up who kind of took care of the children. My name is also in the Bible, Acts 17:34. She's a woman in the Bible that appeared. Pretty much the only spot that she appears is in Acts 17:34. So thanks. My name.
Oh, thank you, Damaris.
It looks like Phyllis has her hand raised. Phyllis, would you like to come off mute?
Yeah. I would take number 5. My favorite movie is The Sound of Music. So just a great, I've watched it a dozen times and it never gets old. And I always put you in a good mood.
Thank you, Phyllis.
Yeah, great movie.
Other PAC members?
Hi, my name is Kim. I'm going to pick number 4. What is your favorite smell? And that I'm going to say is a baby, because I just had a brand new grandbaby girl yesterday.
Oh.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
And congratulations.
Yes.
Thanks so much.
Caroline?
Hello, everyone. I'm picking question 17. What are you the most proud of in your life? And I definitely would have to say my daughters. They have just demonstrated such resiliency in all of the things that they've done throughout their life. You know, one of them has really struggled through developmental delays, dyslexia, you know, and despite that, she faces each day and she does what she needs to do to work hard. And, you know, my other daughter has a lot of issues with anxiety and also just works through it. And, you know, also having all been adopted through foster care, of course, that has its own set of life issues that comes with it. So I am just constantly impressed by their resiliency, and I just love supporting them in any way that I can.
Thank you, Stephanie. Any other PAC members like to share?
Okay, me, Steph.
Okay, Steph.
Okay, and then Elnora's here. She's gonna go next. Okay,
Great.
I pick 5. My favorite movie is Serafina. I guess it's because of equality and freedom. I don't know. It's just a deep movie for me. I just love it. Just everything about it. So if you guys find it, let me know so I can get it again. Okay, Elnora.
My question is number 3, and my happy place is my room because I'm always painting. And since January, I painted like 17 canvases. So.
Wow. That's great. Hey, thanks, Elnora. Any other PAC members who would like to answer that question? Just come off mute.
This is Amber. I'm happy to share. I want to answer number 6. What is your favorite life moment? When I close my eyes and I imagine what that would be, I am taken back to a time when my family and I, my son and my husband, took a hike, and my son was only like 4, and it was at least a mile. So we were so proud of him for making it. At the end, there was a beautiful waterfall, and it was just one of those moments that you never forget.
Sounds nice. Thanks, Amber. Okay, is that everybody? Going once? Twice? Okay. Well, thank you everybody for sharing.
Yes, yeah, I would just want to say, yeah, thank you. It's hard when we're just seeing each other remotely. So I also want to thank Heather for putting together this community building activity. So it allows us to get to know each other a little bit more than just simply, sticking to an agenda of simple business items. Because I think the more we realize we're all people and we relate to each other as people and caring staff, that it actually improves and allows our committee to function even better. It helps to keep in mind that we're doing things for people, for our children, for the students. So thank you, Laura, and I'll let you take it from there.
Great, thanks, Tom. At this point, we are going to talk about the UCP Uniform Complaint Procedure. So we'll turn this over to Lisa.
Good evening, everyone. This is actually just a quick update. Typically every year, our legal services provides all of our committees with an annual update related to the uniform complaint procedure. That information was included in the email attachments that were sent to you prior to the meeting. It's simply a notification to let you know that the district does have a responsibility to process any uniform complaints that are submitted to them. Those complaints are processed through our legal services department. And if you are experiencing or have any issues related to compliance with federal and state laws, regulations, including those related to unlawful discrimination, harassment, intimidation, and bullying against any protected group, and all programs and activities, you are able to utilize the uniform complaint process for that complaint to be reviewed, investigated, and responded to. We've provided you all with electronic copies, but if you are in need of a hard copy, an actual paper document, we would be happy to mail one to your home or make it available for you to pick up at the district office, whatever is convenient to you. But this is just to let you know as a committee that that uniform complaint procedure exists and is a resource to our families.
Thank you. Thanks, Lisa. At this point in time, we'll go to visitor comments and then we'll go to PAC member comments. So Phyllis, I see your hand raised. If you wouldn't mind, just hold that thought. Let's get any comments from the public, then we'll get back to the PAC members. So are there any members of the public that would like to comment on the UCP? If so, please raise your hand. Okay, so we will move forward with PAC member comments on the UCP. So Phyllis, go ahead and take yourself off mute, and the floor is yours.
I have a pretty simple question that in addition to the uniform complaint procedure, is there also a general complaint procedure in place at the district?
Yes, there is. The district office or the San Juan Unified School District does have a problem resolution coordinator. That individual is a point of contact of whom parents, community members, students can contact when they have a concern, whether it be with a staff member or a policy issue or a question. That individual receives the intake of that concern and then works with the parent, community member, or student to address that concern within the school district system. So I can provide you with that individual's name and phone number if you have any questions or concerns that you would like to share.
All right, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other PAC members that have a question or comment?
I do, Laura.
Okay, go ahead, Caroline.
This is Caroline, and it said it was an annual notice, and I don't know if it's like a draft annual notice, but I am curious as to how it's distributed. And also, maybe for the next round, might make the suggestion to give some examples of what is all covered. Like, it was not at all clear to me whether that, like if I had an issue that pertained to special education laws, do I use that one? Do I use a different one? It was a little confusing.
I'll definitely make note of that question. I can tell you that anything related to special education, there is a potential qualification for the uniform complaint process. There is within the document that was shared with you that if you have any questions or inquiries, you can contact our general counsel, Linda Simlick. There is an email within the document that we provided in case you need any additional clarification.
Great, but I guess, so the expectation is that any parent that had any question would communicate directly with your counsel?
So no, it's the actual department who can provide you information. So they are responsible for facilitating and investigating uniform complaint processes. So normally it begins with that department. But certainly, again, with the information that I placed in the chat, you can contact Liz Lopez at the number that was provided in case you would like her to help you navigate whatever specific questions or concerns to identify which is the more appropriate problem resolution concern or direction or pathway that might be most appropriate for your concern.
Got it. I don't have a particular concern, but just as a parent, I'm just providing some feedback that to give a parent kind of an attorney as a point of contact isn't necessarily going to encourage families to come forward with any issues they may have. I mean, obviously, the most the most beneficial, or maybe what one would hope is the first route is always to talk to your school site and see what you can work out. But if that's not available, I mean, even having families go to an attorney just isn't very family friendly.
Duly noted. Thank you so much. I'll make sure to share that information back. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. Damaris, you've got your hand raised. Go ahead and come off mute.
Just a quick question, Lisa. Did you just say to Caroline that the uniform complaint goes to legal and then it's investigated by legal? She should contact family and community engagement?
So the uniform complaint process specifically covers concerns around protected classes of groups of individuals.
Right, okay.
Because there is a protected class component that is federally protected, it does go through the legal process and investigated by our legal department. However, at any time, the first point of contact for a parent could be our problem resolution coordinator, who could work with that parent or that student or community member to address any concern they have and help navigate the appropriate pathway. But yes, it is correct that when a uniform complaint form is submitted, it's submitted to our legal department, and they do the investigation and respond back.
Right, I'm aware of that. I just wanted to be clear on why I didn't quite get the reversal, because we talked about it going to legal first and then you gave her Liz's information. So I get it. She should be talking to Liz first, and Liz will help parents to determine what the next avenue is.
Correct. That's a resource.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are there any more questions or comments on the UCP before we move on?
Yeah. Well, Carolyn had a question in the chat about if you could define in plain language what is meant by a protected class.
So typically protected classes relate to anything related to race, class, gender, sexual orientation, or anything that might typically be protected under federal law. However, again, to your point, Caroline, I can acknowledge that a way to make this more user-friendly and have more simple language would be very helpful. And so I'm definitely going to communicate that back to not only our legal department, but also to our problem resolution coordinator and see what we can do to make it more accessible in language.
Thank you, Lisa. And also I might mention gender expression may be something that may be a need as well. Even I'm not sure if it's federally protected. I believe it's state protected.
Thank you. I'll make note of that, that language as well.
Great, thank you. Okay, so the chat box looks okay, and do not see any more hand raised. So we will go ahead at this point and go on down to an update on the learning continuity plan. And Lisa will go ahead and provide that update.
Yes, so we're very excited to let you all know that the learning continuity plan was approved by the Sacramento County Office of Education with no additional changes. So the document, the final document that was shared with you all in the last couple of months was approved by SCOE, and so it has now been posted on our LCAP website. So we're very excited to acknowledge that approval. I also wanted to make note that during the process of the superintendent questions and responses, there was a particular question that related to specifically our contracts related to our community-based organizations. I want to acknowledge that there was an update to the superintendent responses. That information was provided to all of you via email and as part of the update of those superintendent responses to provide you more details regarding the contracts and those particular community-based organizations that San Juan is currently in contract with. So I just wanted to make you all aware that that document has been updated as well. That is it on that.
Thank you. And from there, we will go back to public comments. Are there any public comments on the learning plan? If so, please raise your hand. Okay, so we will go forward with PAC members.
Let's see, does Phyllis have her hand raised?
Yeah, she's a PAC member. I was getting there. Thanks, Tom. No worries, not a big deal. So Phyllis, go ahead.
My question is basically, it's wonderful information. It's very heady. And is there an effort in place to possibly get a summary type of a document, maybe 1 or 2 pages, so that the community at large and parents at large can kind of look at it and be able to get some key information without having to scroll through the entire document?
We will definitely take that into consideration. At this time, there was not a developed document, but I certainly hear what you're saying regarding wanting to have something more simple and accessible for our community. So I am going to make that note, and we will be able to provide you with an update regarding the status of that by our next meeting. And thank you for bringing that. Thank you for bringing that up.
I have seen some other documents, and they're very, very graphic, and you know, a picture can really speak 1,000 words, especially with the multi-languages that we have in our district. So, and I'm happy to help with that if you need that.
We appreciate that. Actually, Laura and I have been chatting as the work continues throughout the year. There will be a lot more information and content that will be shared, not just with the PAC, but with the community. And we're looking at different samples as well. So thank you for raising that that question and that concern.
Okay, thanks, Phyllis. Stephanie, you have the floor.
With the plan that was just approved with the county, so we don't have to make like a backup adjustment or anything pertaining to, since we just rolled back to, you know, what's going on and everything else. We're trying to move forward, but it seems like everything is just throwing us back. So I wasn't too sure how our plan worked. Is it still we're still gonna ride it through no matter if we roll back to purple and everything else right now?
Just
we don't have like that going.
Yeah, no, for clarification, and then correct me if I'm wrong if I hear what your question is, Stephanie. So the learning continuity plan was a snapshot in time of when we returned back to school and where we were at the time in trying to support our students and schools during the distance learning process. That particular requirement that the state gave us specific instructions to respond to those areas, those 8 areas that we had to focus on for the learning continuity plan in the beginning of the year. So we have not received any more guidance or direction from the state to require us to make any changes to that document. However, it's probably true that when we move into the development of the local control accountability plan, which is the typical plan that the districts will do, that there will be an expectation to look at where we are now and everything that's happened, and that be factored into that plan. So,
okay, so basically, so should we start like basically comparing since the beginning of school, since August till let's say October, and then October to January, or should we just look at from not October, from August to January? Because my main thing is it seems like we got to add in more, even though they didn't put in extra guidelines or anything else. It's like start thinking about things for the future, because look how everything is just haywire right now. So I wasn't too sure if we had to start thinking about some ideas now.
Stephanie, that's a great question, and you are correct that part of what will help us develop the local control accountability plan is the guidance from the state. You are right that we don't need to wait for the state to tell us what we need to do, but we do need guidance. And why we need guidance is they typically give us timelines. They typically say, we want you to consider actions and services from this date to that date. So we have not received that guidance yet from the state, but that is something that will be, we constantly are awaiting guidance, and we'll be communicating that as soon as that information becomes available. But you are right that probably what's going to happen is we're going to pick up some of the work that you all began with Adam last year, and then we're going to find out what the state is going to be expecting, because I think they're still working it out because of, like you said, the rollback and just the start and stops and the challenges with COVID. So, as soon as we have more information, you all will be the first to know. But you're right on track thinking about, how we put the two together.
Yeah, because I just want to I know me and Damaris and Tom, we've been like we'll call each other and be like, hey, we'll see things in the news or see other guidelines from other countries, and we'll compare and we'll just start jotting notes. So I was just like, FYI, people that's logged in tonight, just like if you see anything, just keep a little binder or like my Google Notes and just think of ideas for like the future and everything else, so you won't forget from now on and start planning. And so we can just coordinate into that for later on meetings. So that's it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie. Damaris.
So I have a quick question about the guidelines. So does that mean we're moving ahead with EL students going back to the classroom?
I'm just for clarification purposes, when I'm mentioning guidelines, I'm speaking specifically around the California Department of Ed guidelines around how to do the LCAP and how we're supposed to build the plan. So I'm not sure currently what the status is on that.
Okay, because I'd like to know. A lot of parents are asking. I know our ELs we have ELs scheduled to come back, and we just wonder, are the teachers good with that? Have we talked to the parents? Have we talked to that department before we make those decisions? Because the word on the street is it's not something that has been thoroughly discussed with parents, and the parents that receive those surveys, they might as well have been written in legalese or in a foreign language, because they were very difficult. The snapshots that were sent to me were a little rough to figure out. So just maybe a little clarity as soon as we possibly could would be great.
Definitely. That'll immediately, I know, you have staff on the call, so we'll immediately make note of that. I know that Ms. Bassanelli mentioned that there'll be a communication out soon regarding, the reopening and the next steps. So, but I will make sure that we're also following up on the EL component, given that that was a discussion. So yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Damaris. Any more questions from PAC members before we move on?
Real quick, to Steph. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Lisa, I didn't know if you and me and Damaris is also concerned about with special education opened, the clarification of how many students and which schools, because we went up and down like our website for the district website, and there's nothing notated of which schools are open for special ed and how many went back, and the staff, how many staff is employed for the special eds for the November, second or third date for a reopening, and if those guidelines for us rolling back stay in play where they're going to still continue school. So I don't know if our LCAP, our plans coordinate into CAC and everything else for the students that have returned, and if they're going to still be in school. So that would kind of give us more of a clarification on how we should proceed on. So that's one of the main concerns we had tonight.
And thank you. I know that given the recent transition back to the purple tier, I think, obviously we're reassessing everything that's going on and trying to figure out what that next step recommendation and communication is going to be. So again, as staff, we're making note of that, and we'll make sure that's part of communications.
Okay, thank you, everybody. We will go ahead and.
Oh, I had a question or comment. The learning continuity plan, there was basically a version that was approved by the school board and went to the CDE, but the learning continuity plan isn't it supposed to be really kind of a living document? So the learning continuity plan that was approved by the school board was sort of a snapshot in time. Now, several months down the road is what was in that learning continuity plan. Are there elements of it that have changed? And are those changes reflected in a updated version? Or is the version on the website simply the one that was at the snapshot in time in the past, and that you can't really use the document that's posted on the website to know what the plan is now because things have changed or will have changed in the future?
So the guidance from the California Department of Ed in developing the learning continuity plan is that there would not be any, so the document that was submitted with the timeline of September 30th and then approval by the County Office of Education was the final document. That there were no requirements for any edits or amendments or adjustments to that plan. However, it was recommended and is certainly practice, as you just said, Tom, for school districts to continuously through the continuous improvement process, reflect and adjust and respond to the different changes that are going on in real time. So are there probably changes since the document was created? I'm just speculating. The answer would be yes, but there is no document that is required by the state to submit any changes. My assumption or the guidance that we're getting from the state is that it's most likely going to show up when we do the local control accountability plan. So there will probably be some element of what's happened since the learning continuity plan and how is that helping to inform the local control accountability plan. So it's going to show up, but probably not for a few more months.
Okay, so there's not really live updates, as it were. There may be changes that vary from that plan that was approved. And if somebody were to go to the website and pull down what they find is the most current learning continuity plan, there may be things in there that do not reflect what is now in place.
I think the assumption would be that there's constant communication and transparency between community and school district. And then just so we're clear, the requirement was that the school district approve the plan, but the County Office of Ed reviewed the plan. And to make any recommendations or adjustments, there was no required approval by the county or the state with this plan, primarily because it was a kind of a more of a progress report or a snapshot in time because of the uncertainty of where we would be in the COVID closure and the distance learning process. But you are correct that ultimately the state's intention is to marry the two and catch up once we're able to have more clarity and direction about what to expect for maybe the remainder of the school year. And it may require change in legislation again. So I think we're all kind of waiting and wondering what's going to happen.
Okay, all right, thank you for that clarification.
Okay, so we had 3 more hands raised in the interim period. So Kim, go ahead. Kim, you have the floor if you'd like to. There you go.
Yeah, so my question was about the UCP. I just had a couple of questions about it. The first one was, this is specifically for families if they're filing a complaint if for like bullying or harassment or discrimination, correct?
It's a little nuanced, Kim, but yes, that is one thing you can use that document for.
Okay, so the process now for, say, a parent would be to try to resolve it at school, but if they can't resolve it at school, then they would go through this process to try to resolve it?
So typically, and again, I'm happy to talk with you offline because our office is the Family and Community Engagement Office is the office that actually handles problem resolution. But very quickly, typically what happens is if a parent or student or community member is having a concern at a school site, it is the request that they work directly with the individual that they have the concern with because it's the closest to the concern. If they are not able to address it, let's say it's with the teacher, then the parent, community member, or student speaks with the principal. And if they feel like at that time the principal, the issue is not resolved, then they can contact our office and work with our office and the problem resolution coordinator to then take additional steps to address that concern. And that's also where we can have a conversation about perhaps what are the pathways that might be available to the parent, community member, or student after that. So that's typically the process.
So the UCP is once you get to the district level, is that correct?
Yes, it would have to be filed with the district level, yes.
Okay, and then the attorneys, the legal counsel, they work for the district? Or is that?
Correct, and I want to be very clear, when I say legal counsel, what I mean is that we currently have an office. We have a general counsel for San Juan Unified School District, and they are in our district office, and they can be contacted when there is a uniform complaint process. So it's not like call the lawyer and it's going to be the lawyer, but they have an office and they have individuals that parents can speak with as well.
Okay, but that legal counsel, they represent San Juan Unified School District, correct? So this wouldn't be like legal counsel who would represent the person making the complaint, correct?
Right. It's just yes, correct. And I know that Laura's trying to pick it up. So yes, and I want to be clear that it's not kind of an adversarial relationship at all. It's a department that's accessible to our schools, to our families, and this is one of the responsibilities that they have. So that's how that works.
Okay. I have a few other questions, but I'll maybe ask them later.
Thank you, and I'm happy to feel free to give me a call and we can talk further too.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so let's see, Damaris, you have a question? Looks like Damaris and Caroline.
Caroline was actually on before me, I think. So if she'd like to go
okay.
first.
Thank you, Damaris. Caroline.
You're welcome.
Oh, thank you. My question was, comment was really kind of building on Tom's question and comment, and really has to do with kind of how the district expects to share kind of that monitoring data that we keep talking about in the learning continuity plan with the LPAC, because I think to not give us kind of that data look as we go along is going to make our work harder once we know what the work actually might look like this year. And I think it also getting us what that monitoring data will also help us in making better recommendations for the unduplicated pupils that we're here to serve. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And that will be part of the discussion as more development of the LCAP takes place. So it's necessary to help inform. So you are correct that that will be part of the conversation.
Yeah, I guess I'm just a little worried that it's, midway through November, and despite everything that we've faced, we still don't have that kind of data. And I know that everybody's very busy kind of with everything going on, but I just want to make sure that we get the benefit of this group of people.
Definitely. And I think one thing to acknowledge, and once we move on to the next item, you'll see again that with the state's guidance, this is not a typical year. And so you are correct that things are not as in alignment as you would expect. But there will be continued information shared with this group, and I'm sure will be reported at board meetings regarding student progress or any place in where we are in this digital landscape.
Thank you.
So this page, if you go to the San Juan District website, you can just plug in the Explore or search button, plug in UCP, and you can get some additional information on the UCP. So Damaris, go ahead.
Thank you, Laura. Wow, everybody brought up a different question. One, Laura, I'll take yours first. We've got to find a way to make that website more family friendly. It is just not, and I know what, I think I'm a little more involved than most parents, and it's a lot. It's a chunk. So just to comment on that, sorry.
Are you talking about San Juan's website or LCAP website? What specifically?
San Juan's website. It's chunky. It has a lot of information, but it's not easy to navigate. And I can only imagine. I mean, I think I read fairly well, and it's hard. So anyway, that's just, sorry. That was just something that came up.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Laura. It wasn't directed at Laura. I know she doesn't have anything to do with the San Juan website. So let's be clear. Wasn't it Laura?
That's okay.
So two things. One, I did check the update to the superintendent's questions and looked at some of the things. Some of the things that we talked about last time that we met were mental health issues. And I did see that we put the hotline, the suicide prevention hotline is now prevalent on that up there. So that's good. But and there are a couple of others, but there's some other things that we still did not do. There is not very much information for various mental health services for various groups, for people of color, for LGBTQ. We need to make that really prominent, because if a family is in crisis, I don't really have time to go through the website and try to find a lot of this information. I'm not sure if we could do a one-sheeter where like all this pertinent stuff that people need at their fingertips could be distributed to families, so we can hang it on the refrigerator and know, just like we did when our kids were toddlers, you put that poison control thing up on your fridge. Well, now we're in a different era, and we need to have access to certain things. And particularly culturally, it's difficult. It's difficult, and I didn't see a lot of that on the website, because there are tons and tons of groups. Let's try to give them some more options. Go ahead, Lisa. I'm sorry.
No, I would like to recommend, if I might, that perhaps this be a future agenda item, Tom, given that now folks are moving into solutions and recommendations, and these are important items, and one that we can't
sorry.
ignore. No, that's okay, but I want to make sure that we have a place to have greater discussion. And I'm excited for your committee business. So if it's okay, that would be my suggestion. I don't know if you want to make note, Tom.
Yeah, that's a very good idea, because we do have agenda item there, 11 future agenda items. So
just a quick thing, when Kim was speaking about the UCP, another friendly gesture, Lisa, if a parent files a UPC and it goes to legal, if you don't have a student at that school, they will reject it. So it doesn't necessarily give parents a warm, fuzzy feeling to say, oh, we'll bring these things up. So it might be easier if we could figure out a way where that is not a requirement. You know what I mean? Because it means if you know that something's happening at my child's school, and I may not want to report it, and you report it, it should not be taken any less seriously and not investigated because you didn't have a child at my school. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that. So I actually will investigate that, Damaris, tomorrow.
Thank you.
And I will respond back to you.
Thank you. And so then my last question is about the money. Like, I hope that we've saved some money over the last few months. So could we maybe agendize some information about how we could help, how maybe some of that money could be directed towards helping families and students get through this crazy time? And I'll be quiet now. Good night.
I love everybody's excitement to want to get into the work. And I know that everybody, I mean, we're halfway through the school year practically, and we're still waiting to get into the work. So I can appreciate everybody's urgency on that. And I think if it's okay with you, you know, Tom, I'd like to move forward with the budget overview for parents.
Yeah.
Primarily, not so much that the presentation I'm going to do in this meeting is going to address Damaris's specific questions related to money with numbers, but it is something that is coming forward in the next month in December, and it is going to probably be a foundation for the future conversations that you will all have for the local control accountability plan, actions and services, and how we'll support families and students. So I'm hoping that this information will give you kind of a general introduction to what to expect when this document is shared with you in December. So if it's okay, I'll go ahead and move forward with that. Next slide, Laura. So I want to just first tell you all that much like what you were saying, Damaris and Caroline and Kim, as far as the website being challenging, this information is very dense. And we tried to shorten it. So we wanted to make sure you had everything you needed to see, but we tried to also make it accessible. So I'm going to apologize in advance because it isn't. It's kind of not. But I want to make it clear that essentially what we want to let you know is that there is a expectation in normal school years that there is a budget overview for parents that is submitted in conjunction with the local control accountability plan on July 1st of every year. That is typically what is expected and what has happened in the past. But next slide. And the purpose of that budget overview is to provide information for our stakeholders that gives them an understanding of how the resources were spent, be it our local control funding formula dollars, other state funds, local funds, and federal funds, and then how those resources were used specifically to support our students and families. So that's the purpose of the budget overview. However, this year, next slide, the Senate Bill 98, which is the same bill that also required us to do the local continuity plan, the plan that we just worked with you all on and just submitted, to make some adjustments. Again, this is not a normal year, and this is not a typical timeline or process. So the Senate Bill 98 actually adjusted the timeline of when that document was due. Typically, that document would have been done last July when we submitted the local control accountability plan for approval, but we did not do a local control accountability plan, and we did not do a budget overview for parents. So because of that, the Senate Bill 98 moved that document, that reporting, to December 15th. And so that document is going to be submitted to the school board for approval that shows use of those resources on December 15th. It will also be done in conjunction with the school district's first interim budget. So again, for those of you that are thinking about how all of that information is going to help in the development of not only the support that our students and our schools have had up to now it'll also help inform how we'll move forward in the development of the LCAP. Next slide. One of the additional things that is added to this year specifically is the fact that because we were in closure due to COVID, there were additional resources that were provided to school districts to help support schools as they were trying to identify how to meet the needs of their schools and their students. So the information that will be reported in December is going to contain information related to the use of those resources as well. And we'll also make mention of some of those items that were presented in the learning continuity plan, in particularly around how we supported and served our unduplicated pupils. So just to be aware of that. So again, this being a unique year, there is additional information that will be shared in that budget overview for parents report. Next slide. This is one of those additional funding resources that will be identified as part of the budget overview. Again, there's a reason we wanted to share this information to you in November so that you would have time. You know, I know all of you kind of do your research and look into other resources like the Department of Ed and County Office of Ed. So we're giving you all of the information so that you have time also to do your own level of engagement with the content. But this is some additional information that will be reported in the budget overview for parents. And these are some of the types of funds that were given to districts. So that's just an idea for your background. Next slide. In addition, and I am admittedly not the accounting person, but I want to try to make it as easy and transparent and translatable as I can to all of you. Additionally, what will be reported in that report is funds related to the small bullets that you see. So it's really not different than the previous slides, but it kind of breaks down that when this information is reported about the resources that have been used to support our students in our schools, these are some of the revenue sources that will be identified and discussed in the document. Next slide. They will also bring up, and here's the interesting part, and again, to some of the discussions that have come up and why the charge for the LCAP is going to be very unique this year, is that the state is asking for expenditures, some of the expenditures from 2019-20, as well as the expenditures for 2021. So you're going to see in this particular budget overview for parents that they're not going to be clumped together, but they are going to be reported at the same time. So it's going to be important that we understand that the expenditures that you're going to see for 2019-20 are going to actually relate to actions and services that were when we were still in school, and were still related to the LCAP that we all knew before schools closed. And then we're going to have to report how we supported our students in schools with actions and services in the 2021 school year. So I just want to give you that heads up so that you know that there is going to be some dual reporting from 2 different years. And I'm already getting a headache, so I apologize. But I hope this is helping. Next slide. As the budget report is being populated, that report is going to generate a series of narrative responses that school districts might have to respond to. And the only way that districts will know if they need to respond to that narrative is depending on the numbers that are populated and how the outcome of those numbers require more explanation as to how they ended up that way. I know that sounds very generic, but the issue is these are generally prompted questions. So we don't know if we're going to need to answer the questions or not until the document is populated. And certainly our accounting and our budget department is working on this document now, but it is not in a final stage. But these narrative responses are going to require at least one narrative response, which is how did we generally expend our general funds. So we do know that we will have to provide a response to that narrative, at least the first bullet, and then depending on how the remainder of the population of numbers comes in, will we have to respond to the others. So again, there is kind of a balance of not an ebb and flow. There's kind of a check and balance. So be assured that the document that the state has given school districts will catch things that will need to be explained if they are seeming that they require an explanation, because they have some kind of I wouldn't say any kind of concern, but it's going to be a lot because, as Damaris said, resources that we have compared to the ability to maybe disseminate those resources because we're not in school, it's just going to be interesting to see how all those resources kind of are utilized. And there are requirements and there are regulations to those dollars. Fine, and last slide. Oh, it's not the last slide. Almost the last slide. Try not to be too late. So just really the key differences, and I would really encourage you, for those of you that want to become a little more familiar with this before the December LCAP PAC, this is really the key difference, that because of the COVID closure, we don't have a 2021 LCAP. And for that reason, they required that we do last year's budget overview in December. So that's the key difference, and that's only for this year. And then the second key difference is that the 2021 budget overview for parents that will be submitted to the board for approval in December and will be shared with you at the LCAP PAC is going to cover 2 years. Again, because 1920 was not reported last year. So it is a unique year, and one that, I wanted to make sure the PAC had some advance information because it's messy. It's messy like 2020 is. So I just wanted to share that. And then last slide is to give you a chance in advance of December, if you would like to obtain more information or do your own investigation regarding this, there's some resources that we have here on the slide deck, which will be made available to you all in case you want to review it further. We did have a budget overview for the preceding year, so you'll be able to see what that looks like on our website. So this is just a resource for you all. So I hope that helped. I hope. With that, I'm done.
And with that, we will open it up for public comment first. Do we have any members of the public that would like to ask a question or comment on the budget overview for parents? Feel free to raise your hand. Okay, so we will go on to the LCAP PAC quick Q&A for the budget overview for parents. Does anybody have a question or a comment?
I could not have possibly explained that well.
No, right? All right, looks like we have Stephanie's hand raised. Stephanie, go ahead, come off mute. You have the floor.
Okay, quick question. So the budget overview includes like what we're spending on, like moving on with going back to school. Let's just saying, like me and Damaris is like thinking about buying tents for the kids to have on, like going back physically, but being outside. But that's not going to really happen because they found COVID being transmissible with tents not being open. So I'm just saying, as an example, so the budget overview will include that in the expenditure report?
It's going to contain large reporting. It's not going to have really specific activities like that. So you're going to see more of apportionment of dollars because that is the way that the document is set up by the state. And I encourage you to look at last year's document to give you an idea of what to expect. The numbers are not going to look the same because every year, every school district, every year is going to look different with reporting, but it's not going to be that specific.
Yeah, because I was looking at last year's, but we were just wondering like how much is put aside for the care relief and for this, to say if we came up with something or what we were planning on for the kids to reopen and go back in January, like the HEPA filters or anything that's spent on. I know like specifically itemized statement, but what's available. So we don't know.
And that information will be shared in the budget report, in the budget.
Okay.
Review. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Stephanie. Damaris, go ahead.
Lisa, absolutely. That was an excellent explanation. Come on.
Thank you.
We only needed that one. Come on. No, that was fine. Thank you very much. But quick question. So, yes, I know that all the pots of money have different regulations on how they're spent. Are there no opportunities to ask for waivers or other things because this was a particularly different year, so that there are opportunities to maybe spend money in a little different way?
Oh, Damaris, I'm not sure if I can answer that question because I don't. Okay. I think what I can say, I can speak for my department, so I can do that. I mean, there's definitely been flexibility in utilization of the resources. Yes, that's for sure. And so again, that's part of what the budget overview for parents is going to capture, and is probably going to lead to future discussions for sure.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Damaris.
Yeah, and thank you for the encouragement. I appreciate that. One was that presentation made me nervous, so thank you.
Like distance in a minute. Just drive by.
Do we have any other questions or comments from members of the PAC?
I had a question because this budget overview document for December 15th is very broad. If somebody wanted to get more detailed information, such as how much has the district spent on new air filters or for plexiglass dividers, or where is there some place that a greater level of detail other than just these broad categories could be found?
I think what I would offer you, Tom, is, and I mentioned it, but didn't keep it together. The first interim budget report for the school district will also be submitted to the board on that day. So that one will have more detail.
Okay, all right. So the greater level of detail will be in the board packets that go through the school board.
Yeah, certainly more than the budget overview for parents, but again, the state did put those two together. So the budget overview for parents and the first interim report of the school district are due on the same day or at the same time at the same board. So that should give you a bit of a good snapshot.
Okay, good. Yeah, it's just nice to know where people can find greater level of detailed information if they want to look at a deeper level. So thank you for answering that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Tom. Okay, anybody else before we move on to committee business? Last call. Okay, Mr. Nelson, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you.
Would you like the screen?
Sure, I'll go ahead and give that a try. Okay. And,
let me know if you've got the, I know you call in on two computers. Did I give the right one access?
Yep, okay. I've got it. Okay, so for committee business, what we can move forward with is basically almost anything underneath committee business, but one of the main items, let's see if I can scroll here in the right direction. Let's see. Okay,
there you go.
Yeah, great. Let's see, our bylaws are, well, they're out of date. Since the bylaws were written, there have been some changes to California legislation, which is actually very good for our committee, because previously our committee was operating underneath the Brown Act, which is actually a lot more restrictive. And you may have heard, for example, concerns about having meetings that were not publicly announced, and having violating having such things as serial meetings or hub and spoke meetings. So those are restrictions underneath the Brown Act. The Brown Act is designed to address policy making bodies, and such as the school board. So the school board has to operate underneath the Brown Act. We are not a policy making body. We advise the school board. So the requirements for our committee is to have open meetings underneath the Green Act. And so let's see, I'll move to the next slide. So yeah, the Brown Act was for transparency, enacted in 1953. And again, that it applied to legislative bodies, including school boards. So the Green Act is the one that applies to the LCAP committee as well as to the DLAC committee and the special Community Advisory Committee on Special Education. So it is designed a lot more to build more communication and collaboration. So let's see, I'll just go ahead and skip ahead to the key differences. So the key difference is that we're underneath the Green Act, there's not the provisions prohibiting communications among a majority of members outside of public meetings. Something that has been told to this committee in the past is that when you get an email that's sent to everybody on the committee and you have all the email addresses, don't hit apply all. That underneath the Green Act, my understanding is we do not have to operate underneath that. We can have ongoing email threads discussing topics, sharing information, and basically building our knowledge base among committee members of topics outside of our committee meetings. So that should actually can do a lot to enable our committee to collaborate and coordinate outside of our regular scheduled meetings. And that allows us to, I think, go into greater depth and detail in things that may be of greater interest to a subset of committee members. So let's see. And so because our bylaws actually reference the Brown Act, that is something that we should take a look at in our bylaws and do a bylaw review, as well as there has been discussion, and I think it's a good idea, and there has been support in the past of adding a student leadership position. So aside from there being in the bylaws a chair, which is elected, and a co-chair, which is elected by members of the PAC, that there would be a student position. And so the student position would work with the chair and co-chair and staff leadership in designing and putting together what agenda items are, what items are put on the agenda for our regular meetings. So what I would like to do is move forward and find out among the PAC members here which PAC members would be interested in assisting and making some of the changes to the bylaws. And my guess is the changes to the bylaws are probably just going to be changing one or two paragraphs and only probably making a couple of different adding or removing or changing a couple of sentences. But I think it would be a good idea to have it done by 2 or 3 or 4 people that are on the committee, and that is something that we can basically do outside of our meetings whenever is convenient. And okay, let's see, is there any comments here?
Yes, Tamaris has a comment in the chat. Would you like me to read it, Tom?
Oh, yes, please.
Does that mean we can share contact info of all committee members with everyone's approval?
And well, we've had it's been tradition, or that's the way that the PAC has operated, I think pretty much since its inception, is that there is a contact list. When I believe, Laura, you sent that out in.
I did,
So PAC members do have the email addresses and phone numbers and names of other people. And I'm glad to see that we have a couple of people in chat that have already heard.
Looks good.
So I assume, Laura, you're recording this. So Jacqueline and Kenan.
Jacqueline and Kenan.
And Stephanie.
Oh, and Stephanie.
So, and yeah, if there's anybody else that also wants to be included, then I'll put those, once we get those names, then probably by early next week, if not sooner, I'll reach out to you and we can coordinate a time and just kind of decide what changes we want to make to the bylaws. And let's see, going back to the agenda. So, so good. I'm glad. Thank you very much for stepping up to be part of the bylaw review committee. And I think the next sub item under committee business. Are there any other questions or comments? Does anybody want to have anything to say? If you do, go ahead and feel free to unmute your microphone. Okay, Kim Brown also looks like she wants to be included. Great. And we can also take a look and see among the members if there's anything else other than putting in the removing the reference to the Brown Act and putting in the Green Act, as well as PAC leadership. When we get together, we can also basically brainstorm and just see if there's any other suggestions people may want to have put into the bylaws. Okay, so I guess barring anybody raising their hand or making comment on bylaw changes, next item under committee business is update on membership attendance. We did have a member that, well, recently joined. Last year she was a teacher, but her employment as a teacher ended in June. She, I believe she joined the PAC there in August, but then got rehired as a teacher. So then as a teacher employed by the district, then she was no longer eligible to be a member of the PAC. So we currently have 19 PAC members. So there is an open position. And I'm not sure if Dr. McKibben, if there is a timeline or what plans may be for that open position to be filled. Knowing that there, yes,
yeah, you want me to answer that? When Zima and I met to fill positions, we also set up some alternate positions where we are on the filling positions using our alternates.
Okay, great.
Laura, do you remember?
Yes, yes, we have. We do have some alternates that we can contact.
Okay, so is plan then to contact those alternates, and if they accept, then they will then join us for our next regular scheduled meeting?
That's my understanding.
Okay. Oh, good. Thank you. That's good to know going forward. All right.
Also, Damaris noted that Josiah was interested in returning as well.
Oh, okay. All right. And with this meeting, I believe there is now one or perhaps more members of the PAC that have had 3 absences. So there may be at least one other member or possibly more that may be subject to being recommended that they then vacate their position. But I guess that's something that the PAC leadership can talk about at our next meeting where we set the agenda. Next, okay, I think the next item under committee business is effective LCAP PAC communications. And something that has been brought.
Excuse me, Tom, it looks like Damaris had a hand raised.
Oh, thank you. Damaris, go ahead.
Thank you. I don't know who made you aware of that, but thank you. Just a quick question, Tom. So, I'm sorry, totally lost it right there. It happens to the best of us. I'll come back. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Oh, I know. Along effective PAC communications. So, and this may be a question that may have to check with legal on. But underneath the green actions, we can now, I guess, reply all. I'm wondering if having a, for example, a Facebook group for PAC members, whether there'd be any issue in that, because that might provide some greater ability to communicate, and since we are PAC members that are selected from the community because we hear from the community and we can bring forward those community voices, the ability of our members to also touch base with each other as well as members of the community, whether social media is our PAC could actually use for enhancing communications, both among PAC members and with the community. So if anybody has any thoughts on that they want to share, and whether they think that might be a enhancement in the ability to use social media tools for enhancing PAC communications. Yeah, Lisa, do you?
If I could, I'd just like to comment that once you have scheduled your subgroup to meet regarding the bylaws in reviewing the Green Act, once we have that date, perhaps we're happy to do research or provide some follow-up to those inquiries, just to help guide the conversation, to give you that update. So we'll just keep taking note of these conversations, and then anything we need to follow up with as staff, we can provide those responses to you all when you're working together in the subgroup.
Right. Yeah, I appreciate that because community, obviously, with social media, the various platforms of community have really opened up, and don't want to basically be. If we're missing opportunities to connect with the community, and actually, for that matter, connect with each other. Knowing, for example, that the way that, especially since we have student members, the way that students tend to communicate, and I think, Kenan has mentioned this as well as I think our other student, Jackson, that email, which is the way that we've traditionally done everything, that maybe we should look at avenues of expanding beyond email to, especially to connect with our student members.
So it looks like we have a question or comment from Stephanie.
Relating to, okay, so the communication. So relating to Tom's statement, I can't stand Facebook, so just to let you guys know, I do have Facebook, but I can't stand using it. So like, think of after like we get our bylaws in and the social media policy that Dr. McKibben was talking about, after those merge and get developed, I do agree that we should have like a committee or a couple of PAC members that will be ahead of the communication part, that will post to Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, just because some people don't use other platforms. But to a lot of parents, I see a lot of parent statements and comments and concerns or questions that they have. I think, like, you know how the board posts the meeting on YouTube, and so you can go back and relook at it. So to post ours on as YouTube as well, but as a different channel page of answering parents' concerns, their questions. And so it won't keep coming back to another meeting and then it'd be another parent asking the same question, same concern. And then it just keeps going over and over again. Like, we keep having a whole bunch of concerns and questions from parents in the community, and they're like, okay, where's my answer? And so I think we should more elaborate on the communication engagement of answering those parents' questions, have those PAC members be able to like follow through and have like a or link, either post it on our school website of communication to parent questions and concerns from the previous board, meetings that we had held. So just look into that for later on for our meetings.
Right. Yeah, those are some good comments.
Thank you, Stephanie. Damaris, would you?
I think that social media is a great way for us to use to get information. However, Stephanie, I'm sorry, I don't want to do that. That is a can of worms that I don't think that I'll speak for myself. That's not something that I personally want to do in the framework of this committee. I don't feel like I have enough information half of the time to answer the questions thoroughly. Sometimes we get bits and pieces. And so I think if I'm for us having social media, perhaps maybe as like a community service for one of the young people on this committee, where they're updating people about when we're having a meeting, maybe putting the agenda item there or something like that. But I don't want to go into that other can of worms. I'm sorry. I agree that there needs to be a forum for that, but this one is not it for me personally. That's a lot.
Right.
Thanks.
Yeah, and yeah, so it's something that would have to be very carefully thought out, because when I say social media, it might be only that we use it as an additional avenue for things that maybe we already do on the website, but of posting the agenda in the minutes, where not using it for bi-directional communication, but maybe just as another way to let people know that we're having a meeting. This is the agenda. If you want to see the minutes, here they are. So that but I simply wanted to pose the question so that staff can maybe take a look at it, and we can maybe think about it and see if there is perhaps a very limited area of using social media that will allow us to connect more with some communities that we may not be connecting with now. Okay. So unless there is, let's see, any other comments, questions?
Yes, in the chat, Damaris, is this the third meeting with the first one being voluntary? Yes, that would be correct, Damaris. August 13th was voluntary. August 27th, September 10th, and now today are regular PAC meetings.
So this is the third one.
Third, correct.
Official. Okay, so people
Correct.
that have missed these. Okay. So are we counting the first one, the voluntary one?
No.
Okay, just checking. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
And so the last item, as far as listed as under committee business, is the district committee members' code of conduct. I'm not sure if Dr. McKibben wants to comment on that. And also just to, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to comment that the kinds of things that Damaris was talking about and that sort of thing in terms of what is the level of contact, and indeed, Tom, you picked up on, is indeed the kinds of things that we want to look at in terms of the code of conduct, is what would be the purpose of it, and trying to be very careful to protect privacy rights of everyone.
Okay, yep, good. Now, is there any other questions or concerns that people may want to bring up underneath just the overall general heading of committee business? Yeah. Let's see, I guess I will mention, since there were a couple of public comment earlier, that there was a suggestion about providing some sort of kind of protection for members of the committee, and I guess if there were any questions that any of the members may have concerning my removal and reinstatement, then you can either ask them here, or if they want to, feel free to email me and I can provide, answer any questions they may have. But let's see. So if there is anything else that people want to bring up, go ahead, Damaris.
I was just wondering, I have asked this several times before. Is it possible for us to know when things are happening, if there are meetings going on that involve something that we may be working on? Or I've asked several times about the groups that come on campuses. And I find it really disheartening that as a member of this committee for umpteen years, I can't go to any of these things on campuses, but we can have outside contractors come in. So it's mind-boggling to say, oh, well, we can't give you a list, or we can't tell you when these meetings are coming up or whatever. We give outside people access. And if it means we have to redo our volunteer stuff, I'm fine with that. But it's kind of concerning when I hear from parents or students about something and they say, well, I wish, we don't even know that they were happening. That's what I'm saying. So if we could maybe put together a list of opportunities. When we first started this program, this committee, there was not as much of a list, but there was somewhat of a list where you knew that on this particular day, we were doing listening circles at these 4 schools, or we were doing X, Y. So we don't do any of that. We don't know about stuff until it's happened. And it might be helpful. I don't think that everybody's going to show up. We could maybe go through Laura, sorry, Laura, and just kind of, just RSVP if we want to attend something that was on that agenda. But we don't get to know about that. And I don't understand why we are so secretive about this stuff. What is it that we can't know?
I'm not sure if staff or anybody else cares to respond to that. I do, somewhat along the lines of what Damaris mentioned, I want to mention that this past month, because of the meetings being held via Zoom, I was able to actually attend 3 school site council meetings inside of our district. I took a look by looking at the various school websites, and some, we have over 60 schools. And when I looked at the school websites, I found only, less than 10% of them posted them having their school site council meetings. Now, my understanding is that every school site council probably has approved and had meetings to approve their single plan, their school plan for student achievement. Before the pandemic, schools were open, and the schools, I think most of the schools would do their required public posting of their school site meetings on their school campuses. But now, since the school campuses are closed, but I believe they still have a requirement to publicly post it, are they posting their public announcements of their school site council meetings on campuses which are closed, instead of on websites? So
I would, Tom, I would have to recommend, again, I know you're at future agenda items. I know you're having discussion now, and I'm not sure specifically what this pertains to any item. But what I can suggest to you, and again, for the purposes of the LCAP, I can connect with Gwen Dillinger, who is supporting that work related to our Title I and those resources, and get more clarity. So if that is an item that you have questions on, and kind of back to Damaris's point, we can make that part of the staff report at the next December meeting. So if that is a question, we can find out how they're being posted, or what that process is. But
yeah, I think that, that would be good, because I think it goes towards our connected school communities and to our LCAP PAC communications, because I found it quite interesting and enlightening and informative to the PAC, as a PAC member, to hear and to just listen in on what was happening at school site meetings, because they were implementing what our PAC approved in terms of our strategic framework. So the strategic framework was forming the basis for them to do their single plan for student achievement. So it really does facilitate and helps the implementation of taking something that is a strategic framework, which the school board and our committee approved of connected school communities, and actually implementing it. So we do have that connection of connected school communities, and we do see the impact then at a site level of seeing how what we do here is communicated and connecting to school sites.
Yeah, and I think to your point, various individuals have different levels of interest. So I think making sure the information is accessible and available, given that it is a public meeting, it's important to communicate. So I would recommend just to remain on task with your item, that perhaps if that is something you would like information on, that could be for next month's meeting, to give that clarity, because you are right, in the distance learning environment, information is the work is still being done and schools are still being served. They still have responsibilities and accountability measures. But, you know, to your question of how is that being communicated, it sounds like there's an opportunity to bring that information back to help. So that would be my recommendation.
Okay, yeah, thank you. And anyway, like I said, it came to mind when Damaris was talking about making, you know, getting information for our committee as to what, how things inside the district are being implemented. And
Okay.
so,
All right. So are we wrapping up future agenda items
yeah,
right now?
yeah, I think we're at future agenda items. And if there is anything that people, other people may want to suggest as a future agenda item, go ahead and speak up or raise your hand. And I guess,
can we, yes. So I just want to know if this is the right place to do this, is the future agenda item. I wanted to discuss communication, but kind of on the school site and district level to parents.
Is there a specific, specifically regarding the methods that the district and schools communicate with families, or what they're communicating, or what specifically?
Yes. So it's the method in which it's being communicated. So finding out from your tech team, is there a way for them to separate the junk emails from the pertinent emails that parents receive regarding assignments and important communication from teachers? Because I receive about 60 to maybe 80 emails within about 2 days, and probably 95% of it is junk or more. And so I'm always just going into my children's inbox and just creating a new folder saying this is just old emails, and I don't even look at them because there's usually no real content behind it. It's just this got graded, that got graded, and it's just so much that it makes it difficult for me and the teachers to have a quality communication experience.
We'll definitely make note. Laura, are you making note of that?
oh, Laura, you're on mute, I think.
Yeah, and we'll.
We'll pick it up in the audio tomorrow, the audio recording. I go back and audit and pull everything out that needs following up.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, Kim. Any other future agenda items?
Okay, well, let's see, I guess barring hearing anybody else, but as always, that's not the only opportunity. So if there is something that you think of that you would like to have as an agenda item, you can email it to myself or to Laura, and then we can put it on as an agenda item for discussion at our next regularly scheduled meeting. And
okay, thanks, Tom. And with that, that brings us to just before adjournment, if we want to open up the floor again for any last comments from any of our visitors this evening. Feel free to raise your hand. Okay.
all right.
Well, there are no hands raised.
Okay, well, I guess with that, I'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting.
No, whoa,
wait, oh, yes?
Oh.
So sorry, I thought we were just talking about the one thing. So Lisa, thank you for hanging out with us. That was a quick run, but we'll see you on the flip.
You know where to find me.
Okay, well, thanks. So we know when we have family issues, we know where to go now, right?
And family celebrations and family successes. Yes.
Oh, yes.
All of them.
Absolutely.
All to the above.
All of the above. Thanks.
There we go.
Okay. Yes, thank you, Lisa. And I'm going to miss you. And But I'm very happy for you and wish you the best in your future adventures. And thank you.
Thank you all, and thank you for all the work you're doing for our students and families. I look forward to highlighting the San Juan work very soon. I hope you have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Okay, with that, do we need a first and a second motion to adjourn, Tom?
Sure, let's just go ahead and do it for the formality of it.
I
Okay,
make a motion to adjourn. Damaris.
thank you, Damaris.
Welcome.
Any second to adjourn?
I'll second. Kim.
Kim, thanks, Kim. Okay, so with that, we are adjourned at 8:15, early. Woohoo! You guys get 15 minutes back.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good
Thank
night.
you, Laura.
Yeah, thank you, Damaris.
Good night.
Good night, Phyllis. I feel like we're in a Walton commercial, the
I
Walton
know.
commercial.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Elizabeth. Ben.
All right, looks like everybody's dropping off, so I will drop off too. Good night, everybody.
Good night.